Serious, what's the creepiest slash scariest thing you've seen but no one believes you? I used to have a buddy that lived in the same neighborhood, a few streets over. One night we were having a couple of beers in his backyard while playing cards. I had some things to do the next morning, so just before 10 I said my goodbyes and shoved off. It was a short walk, maybe 15 minutes door to door, so I never drove. Anyway, it was a nice night, uneventful trip. But when I got home, my roommate was coming out the front door, coffee in hand, and dressed for work. He gave me a funny look and said he thought I was asleep since my truck was in the driveway. I told him where I'd been and asked why he was going into work at night. That's when he kind of laughed and asked if I was drunk. We stared at each other for a minute and then he told me it was just after 5 in the morning and he was going in just like he usually did. In my entire life, I'd never felt more confused than I did in that moment. I could tell he was dead serious, but I knew I had just left my friend's house. I checked my phone and sure enough, 5 something in the AM. My roommate left for work. I paced circles in the living room for a bit, then called the friend whose house I'd just left. He groggily answered and confirmed I'd left at 10 the previous evening. I have no idea what happened during those 7 hours of my life, and it gives me chills to think about it all these years later. I wasn't drunk, I wasn't tired, no one could have slipped anything in either of the two cause lights I'd had, no known medical conditions that would have caused me to black out, and nothing has happened like it since. I just don't know what happened to that time. I was walking to class from the dining hall on my campus when I saw a lady yelling for help and banging on a window of a nearby building. Lots of people were walking past, but I was the only one who seemed to acknowledge it. I went to the window to help, and she told me she was locked in a room in the building, and that she needed me to come in and open the door. Now, I have no idea the layout of this building and where she was located. So I decided to call campus security for help despite her pleading with me not to call them and to just let her out. I call them, and when I hear them coming I go to greet them so I can take them to the window. I leave for maybe a maximum of 15 seconds, and when I return with campus security she is gone. We can't see her at the window and campus security goes inside to double check, and sure enough there is no trace of her. Campus security definitely thought I was crazy, and I'm sure my professor thought I was full of it when I explained to him why I was late. No one seems to believe me that this happened, but I swear it did. FAQs. I'm female / it is a very old campus with lots of random historic buildings that people don't really use, and this building was one of them / the area has a very high crime rate, so it probably was a robbery. Had my laptop in my bed just before going to sleep, not plugged in, on battery. Made an offhand comment on some website about how I wasn't scared of ghosts and didn't believe in them. Then I turned it off and went to sleep with the laptop beside me in my bed. Next morning when I try to power it on, nothing happens. But the laptop feels unusually light. That's when I realized the battery had been physically removed and placed in the kitchen. I was alone in my apartment and do not have a history of sleepwalking at all. I saw a panther-sized black cat darting out of a water retention / artificial forest near a school in the desert. Logically, it shouldn't be able to survive there, but holy it, I saw it. Animal control wouldn't let that exist. There isn't really food enough for it, and the summers get dangerously hot. If you've got black fur, must have been 4 to 5 feet long. It doesn't make sense, but I 100% saw it, and so did the friend I was with. Not quite sure how young I was at the time, but it was probably between 5 to 8. I was in my babysitter bed at the time in her trailer park. It was 3 AM. I had woken up because I had to pee. When I woke up I looked down the hallway to see my babysitter leaning against the wall like one of the stereotypical cool guys do in movies. And I made eye contact, and I felt my body go cold because she was still sound asleep next to me in bed. I went under the blankets trying to hide, and when I looked back she was gone. I didn't want to sound crazy, so I've never told anyone. I just sat in her bed watching infomercials until 6 AM when she woke up. Never even thought about sleeping there again. I honestly forget how much this affected me until I started writing this. Really freaked me out, man. Edit. Since I never told anyone IDK if it belongs here, but no one in my family believes in ghosts, so if I were to tell them I guarantee it'd be dismissed. Footsteps and banging in my attic. For about 2 months, almost every night I would hear from my attic. The steps are only like 5 feet from my room. Small taps or footsteps. Then it gradually got louder to the point it sounded like an audible foot was pressing on the wood. I told my dad, and he told me it was probably an animal that got up there or something. Thing is, my sister heard it too, as her bedroom was in the same hallway as mine. My dad might have been right, as it was completely gone after 2 to 3 months, and right now at 2 AM, I don't hear it. And I swear to God, if I hear it after I post this, I'm actually gonna piss my pants. Edit. A commenter also reminded me that about 3 times I heard a loud bang, like something knocking really loud on the roof. My heart would skip a beat when that happened. I'm soaking relieved whatever was up there is gone now, or else I felt like I would have gone crazy. In the same room of my old house, I have seen a convulsed face floating outside my window. My brother has also seen it too. I saw the same face over a number of periods, and it would do stuff like smile and float closer and further from the glass. Our youngest brother a few years later complained that he didn't want to play with the boy in his room anymore as he was getting too much blood on his toys. It was the same room. Not sure if it counts as creepy or overall scary, but it was weird. Back in high school I lived in a large apartment complex. It was maybe around 8 to 9 at night and completely dark. I was with a group of friends, 4 or 5 people. We were just talking and messing around with a friend's pair of walkie-talkies as we decided to look up in the sky as 2 fireballs, or what can be described as fireballs, just appear in the sky and slowly move in a line. Just as that happened, we started getting what sounded like military communication over said walkie-talkies. That was really static, but words came in every now and then. About 10 or so minutes later the fireballs disappeared and the communication cut out. There was absolutely nothing about this on the news the next morning, and no one ever believed me. Edit. The sky was clear, no clouds, and the only military base in my whole state was 30-ish miles away. Luke AFB. Just after high school, maybe 6 months or so after 9 to 11, I was a van driver who drove the meals for Meals on Wheels to the place where they get packaged up and taken for home delivery. Anyway, the delivery van only had AM/FM radio, and I was listening to 92.5 FM when all of a sudden the station cuts out and a transmission that I can only describe as an American version of a numbers station began playing. It was seemingly random numbers followed by a long period of the same phrase repeated over and over again. The phrase was "they took the crosstown bus," over and over again. None of the other drivers heard it, but man was it creepy to hear. Eventually the regular radio station came back on, and they never mentioned anything about it. Not really creepy or scary, but my parents went canoeing in the middle of nowhere with some troubled youth. While they were on the river, their canoes capsized, and people were having problems swimming and getting to shore. About 3 to 4 large men came out of nowhere and helped them all to shore, then completely disappeared afterwards. My parents swear they must have been angels, as there's no way they appeared and disappeared that quickly when they were in the middle of nowhere. I had a similar experience. Me and my mom went hiking in the woods in the Smoky Mountains National Park, and we got disoriented. We couldn't figure out what direction we came from, and it was getting late. Out of nowhere a man and a young boy appeared. They pointed us in the right direction, and we made it back to our car just before nightfall. I swear they just vanished, because I remember looking back to see where they were going, and they were just gone. Not sure if this counts, because I have at least 2 people that do believe me. After coming home from work one day, I was walking through my kitchen towards the living room when a frying pan just flew across the room and hit me square between the shoulders. My roommate and a friend of his both saw it happen and lost their it. Wasn't the only time we saw weird it in that house. I saw a shadow person in the same spot almost every day. Heard extremely heavy footsteps stomping across our roof with no explanation. My roommate says he saw a full laundry basket just flip itself upside down while it was flat on the ground. He also claims to have seen an ugly little green goblin looking demon in our living room one night. So, yeah, that's all I got. Edit. I see several people suggesting carbon monoxide poisoning as a possible explanation. We have several brand new detectors all through the house. Since it's a rental, we also just recently had to pass an inspection from the city that checked all the appliances, etc. Wow, you've reached the end of the video. If you want to see more, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more videos.